You're watching Idaho's News Channel 7. This is the news at 6.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Brian C. Kohberger, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, kill and murder Kaylee Gonsalves, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, kill and murder Ethan Chapin.
That was the Latah County judge reading the charges against 28-year-old Brian Kohberger. He's the man accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in a home just off campus back in November. Thank you for joining us on the news at 6. I'm Doug Petcash. Kohberger is charged with 5 felonies, 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. We're also learning more about how police were able to connect Kohberger to the quadruple murder in Moscow. We have team coverage from today's events. Abby Davis is live in studio with a better look at the timeline of the murders. But first, my co-anchor Morgan Romero joins us live from Moscow outside the Latah County Courthouse, where Kohberger made his first court appearance in Idaho this morning. And Morgan, we learned a lot today.
Yeah, we did, Doug. We learned a lot of information about why investigators believe that Brian Kohberger is the one who committed these 4 heinous murders on University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Xana Kernodle. That probable cause affidavit was unsealed, and that's because Kohberger made his initial appearance in front of a magistrate judge in this courthouse today. Through that probable cause affidavit, we are learning information that we have never seen before. This is the most information that we have learned since these murders were committed back on November 13th, almost 2 months ago. That affidavit shows investigators matched Brian Kohberger to the crime scene through DNA, cell phone records, and video surveillance of his car. Officers noticed a tan leather knife sheath on the bed next to Maddie Mogan. A sheath is a cover for the blade of a knife. They figured out it was a K-bar knife with Marine Corps insignia. Idaho State Lab found a single source of male DNA on the button of the sheath, which they called the suspect profile. They then compared that DNA to trash that they took from the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania back on December 27th, just a few days before his arrest. Kohberger waived extradition and was flown from Pennsylvania, where he was arrested at his family home on December 30th. He was flown into the Pullman Moscow airport last night. This is video of his plane landing. Then we were there outside this building where I'm live at right now, where he was taken in a police motorcade into the Sally Port of the Latah County Jail. Today, again, was his first court appearance in front of a magistrate judge in Latah County. He could face the death penalty or life in prison if found guilty. At this time, he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did this. He also was issued a no contact order for any contact with the victims' families. He was appointed a public defender, and the judge decided to set no bail. Take a listen.
At this point in time, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Law 46B and Idaho Code 19-816 and 2903, I am going to leave the bail set at this case as no bail at this point in time until I have additional or further information at a later date and time.
Kohberger's next court appearance will be a status conference on January 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's not going to be his preliminary hearing where we'll get more probable cause information, but it will be the hearing in which the judge sets that preliminary hearing. Also important to note, in that PCA today, we are expecting to learn a little bit more information about if there were any connections between Kohberger and any of the 4 victims and what those connections were, but we did not learn any of that in the PCA. We hope to learn that as time progresses. I also want to point out, as we continue to cover the suspect in this case, let's not lose sight of the fact that 4 young, beautiful souls lost their lives just off campus of the University of Idaho almost 2 months ago. Doug.
Morgan Romero live in Moscow for us, covering this very big story. Morgan, thank you very much. And also in that probable cause affidavit, investigators detail Kohberger's movements before and after the murders. News Channel 7's Abby Davis joins us now to break down how police tracked him.
Doug, investigators built a pretty detailed timeline of events, but let's start with the morning of the stabbings, November 13th. Kohberger's car was seen driving past the house on King Road where the murders happened several times that morning. Something Moscow Police Department Corporal Brett Payne, who wrote the PCA, says is unusual in a neighborhood where traffic is usually very light early in the morning. According to the affidavit, a car matching Kohberger's, a white Hyundai Elantra, was seen on camera at 2:53 a.m. on November 13th, leaving Pullman heading toward Moscow. That's about a 15-minute drive. That same Elantra was picked up again at 3:26 a.m. heading west on Indian Hills Drive. Then 2 minutes later heading west on Steiner at Highway 95. Starting at 3:29, the Elantra was seen passing the house on King Road where the murders happened 3 times. At 4:04, the Elantra turned around at a nearby apartment complex before going back and making a 3-point turn onto Queen Road. 16 minutes later, at 4:20, Kohberger's white Elantra is seen on camera speeding away from the area, heading south. About an hour later, at 5:25, several traffic cameras in Pullman and on the Washington State University campus captured the Elantra returning. 12 days later, on November 25th, the Moscow Police Department asked area law enforcement to look for a white Hyundai Elantra. Then, on November 29th, WSU police found a 2015 Hyundai Elantra registered to a student, 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, a graduate student studying criminology. His car was found about a half hour later at his WSU apartment complex in Pullman. His driver's license picture and information also matched the roommate's description of the man she saw in the house the morning of the murders. That pushed Moscow police to look into Kohberger's cell phone data, a number they got after pulling him over for a traffic violation back in August, before the murders. At 2:42 a.m. on November 13th, Kohberger's phone pinged at his apartment in Pullman. 5 minutes later, that phone left the apartment, traveling south through Pullman before it's turned off at 2:47. The phone doesn't ping again until 4:48 on Highway 95 south of Moscow, near Blaine. It pings at several cell towers before 4:50 and 5:26 a.m., showing it traveled south on 95 to Genesee, then west to Uniontown, and then north back to Pullman, where a traffic camera picked him up on Stadium Drive at 5:27. This wasn't the only time Kohberger's phone showed up near the King Road house. A wider historical records request shows he visited the area 12 times before the murders, all but once late in the evening or early morning. And not only that, Doug, Kohberger's phone pinged again hours after the murders happened near the King Road house.
And Abby, I know that you really scoured that probable cause affidavit to put that timeline together for us. And for anyone interested in reading the whole thing, we have the full probable cause affidavit online. You can read that right now on KTVB.com. We've also got Kohberger's entire hearing online as well. New at 6, the highest court in the state upheld 3 separate restrictive abortion laws. The Idaho State Supreme Court released its opinion today on Planned Parenthood versus the state of Idaho. This, of course, over those restrictive abortion laws that became law just in the last year. Planned Parenthood and an Idaho doctor challenged Idaho's abortion laws. These laws ban all abortion except for the cases of rape, incest, or to save the mother's life. They also allow family members of an aborted fetus to sue the doctor for up to $20,000. News Channel 7's Andrew Bartline has read through the court's opinion. So, Andrew, how did they arrive at this decision?
Well, it came in a 3-2 split. 3 justices concluded these laws are rational, legal, and serve a legitimate state interest. 2 justices disagreed, and we'll start with the majority opinion that upholds these laws. Justice Brody, Justice Bevin, and Justice Moeller all hold there is no fundamental right to abortion in the Idaho Constitution, whether that be explicit or implicit. The Inalienable Rights Clause, guaranteeing the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, was not ratified into the state constitution until 1889. At this point in history, the majority opinion says the right to abortion was not deeply rooted in the state history or traditions. Therefore, it is not clear to assume the framers had any intention to protect that right. The majority opinion adds, quote, "If the people of Idaho are dissatisfied with these new laws, they can elect new legislators." Both Justice Zahn and Justice Stegner dissented. Justice Zahn argues that women have the fundamental right to abortion, where both her and Justice Stegner agree these 3 laws are at odds with the Constitution. They argue, quote, "They are not narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling state interest." These 3 laws have already been in place because the court removed stays while sorting through this legal process. And with this decision, abortion remains largely illegal in the state of Idaho, with exceptions of rape, incest, or to save the mother's life. Planned Parenthood issued a response shortly after the announcement, quote, "Planned Parenthood will never back down. We will keep fighting with everything we've got to restore Idahoans' right to control our bodies and our lives. No matter what happens, Planned Parenthood is here for you. Our doors are open in Idaho, and our teams are ready to help you get the care you need, even if that means traveling out of state." It's important to note, Doug, that to save the mother's life exception, that does not count any situation that would involve the potential of self-harm, and that to save the mother's life is also at the discretion of the doctor medically. And through our reporting, we've had doctors tell us that there's gray area there, and that does concern them.
And abortion and these laws are really expected to be an issue once again in the legislature that starts next week. Andrew, thank you. Well, still to come on the news at 6, lawmakers are back to work on Monday, but today they gave us a preview of what they hope to be their biggest talking points this year. Plus, one key contributor for the Broncos has been playing with a pretty serious injury. Jay Tust is going to fill us in on that as they prep for the Aggies of Utah State later in sports.
It's raining, as you can see here in Twin Falls, and it's going to rain for a little while longer, but it is starting to let up a little bit here in Boise. So what's going to take place next? I'll be back to tell you about the forecast in 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, Governor Brad Little will be sworn in for his second term. On Monday, the legislative session kicks off with his State of the State address. And when lawmakers reconvene, the Republicans will once again hold a supermajority in both chambers, along with dozens of new faces. During the taping of this Sunday's Viewpoint, Boise State University professor of political science, Dr. Stephanie Witt, described the possible impact of having 40 brand new lawmakers in the legislature.
Sometimes when there's a big block of new legislators, they band together and insist on change or try to disrupt the system a little bit. Typically and traditionally, new legislators are at the bottom of the seniority list, right? Mm-hmm. So they would have to wait a few years before they're really commanding a lot of attention and a lot of new legislation. But you never know. If they come in and they really want to make a big impact, this is something we see more in Congress, where we've had a couple of times where a large cohort of new people come in. So I'm not sure that the 40 new ones are all of a type, right? Mm-hmm. But if they're not anxious to wait their time, in seniority, we may see them make an impact right away.
And you can watch the full interview on Viewpoint Sunday morning at 9 o'clock here on KTVB. Governor Little will hold the annual State of the State address coming up on Monday, as I mentioned. We'll have live coverage starting at noon right here on KTVB, with the actual address starting at 1 o'clock, which we will also bring to you live. And after the State of the State address, Idaho lawmakers will really get to work. On the Capitol Watch now, there is a long list of goals and topics for them to tackle. Chief Political Reporter Joe Paris joins us now. So, Joe, you were able to talk to some of the leadership today. What are major topics lawmakers are looking at now heading into Monday?
Well, Doug, property taxes, infrastructure, the economy, those are big ones for sure. Of course, there will also be a lot of attention on education. And we saw a lot of campaigning on that front in 2022. So now those who ran for office and they made promises or they projected goals for their constituents, well, they're going to have to get to work on that education now. In a national and local conversation in education, it centers on school choice, parental choice. And we've heard from Republican lawmakers in Idaho about the concept of fund students, not systems. Democrats have expressed concerns about the idea, their opinion saying that public dollars should not be going to private institutions through programs like school vouchers. Some GOP members agree. Others say they're open to exploring options.
I'm very concerned about all of this talk about school vouchers, which would siphon funds away from public schools to private schools where there's no accountability and no oversight, and we can't as taxpayers make sure that those children are getting what they need to succeed. And I'm even more concerned in this era where our public and charter schools we fund with public dollars aren't getting the funds they need.
I think what our focus on education is going to be is less on the facilities and current systems and more on workforce development. I think that's where we're finding a shortcoming, and we had done some town halls around the state earlier or at the end of last year to try to figure out what business is needed for a workforce. And so I would look for some more targeted education investment when it comes to workforce development. I think that is going to be more of a focus this year.
So we'll see how this all plays out and what ideas are out there. This should be an interesting dynamic at the legislature this year because there are so many new faces. There are technically 40 people that are in new roles over at the Idaho State House, and because of redistricting, that's why we saw so many new faces. So, Doug, when I talk with lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats, they say they are excited for new blood and possibly new ideas.
Yep, and we heard Dr. Witt talking about those 40 new faces as well and the possible impact they could all have. Joe, it is going to be an interesting session. Education, just one of the major issues we'll be talking about a lot over the next 3 or 4 months. Idaho's Chief Meteorologist Rick Lance is up next with a look at your forecast. It's been kind of rainy this afternoon. Is it moving out of the area now?
From News Channel 7, time for 7 First Alert weather.
If you just stepped in from outside, you're probably wet. And here's a look outside with Skycam 7. It's starting to decrease out there right now as you look at the city of Boise. The temperature today, nearly 50 degrees. There's a 49. Wasn't that warm for the rest of the valley, lower to mid 40s, more in the forecast area, and 43 degrees for Twin Falls. Take a look at the wind chill, though. We do have some winds, and keep in mind, you'll see it's going to be breezy to windy starting tomorrow and likely into Saturday. You'll see that the temperatures, as far as the wind chills, though, are still very chilly out there, even with some of the rain showers. So this 49 today is more than 10 degrees above the average. And the low this morning of 36 is also more than 10 degrees above the average. This is more of what winter should be about this time of year. When you'd be complaining about the cold, but you know, it has come up with some of those temperatures. So it's nice to see. And it appears as we look at the 10-day temperature trend that these temperatures are going to last a while, these 40s. Now, I don't see any 30s there. We get down to a 44, but we almost get close to 50 degrees again by next Tuesday. Thought you'd be happy to see that. For now, you can see how some of the showers are starting to decrease there, but there's still a little more for Twin Falls. Let me make this one point here. As you see down through here toward Reno, there's a few showers in that direction. As that comes up from the southwest for tomorrow, it's likely going to dry out over the Owyhees, the rain shadow effect. But if not, that's the only reason for the scattered showers. So you are going to see that we're looking for pretty much a dry day for tomorrow. We got this wide because here's the weekend. Okay, this is the storm system that's coming in there. Looks like we've got some more rain showers that will be coming our way. So with this, here's where we are as far as some of the mountains around us. Snowtail and Boise Mountains, 129% of normal, 118% for Payette. Weiser, 134%. Big Wood is 142% of normal. They were so dry last year. Normal is 100%, so you can see they're all above normal. We're working at it. So as you look at the temperatures here tomorrow, they're still about the same. Mountain locations are chilly with temperatures basically into the mid-30s. You see the overnight lows are dropping off quite a bit for tonight. Down here in the valley, we've got some 30s for lows. Daytime highs are basically into your mid-40s. 46 for Boise and Meridian with 46 degrees. 7-day forecast, we dry up a bit on tomorrow. Showers back on Saturday and likely Sunday. We'll see this on and off, nothing heavy in the mountains, but it will be snow, a couple of inches each time. We need that as we were just looking at it, and the temperatures remain basically in the 40s. There you go. We're back with more in just a moment.
He was doing a lot of good things for us.
Broncos run it quickly into the other end of the floor. Rice hits the three in transition. Rice with 7, Shaver with an assist.
He spaces the floor so well and moves the ball so well and makes others better. He scored when we really needed some hoops there and kind of got us some gaps and hit a big 3 that got us up to 10 or 11. That was huge.
Rice getting into the paint. Rice with 4, turns and shoots. Rice hits some of the more unorthodox shots.
Yeah, I thought he did some great stuff, no doubt about it. And Max had 14 3 assists, only 1 turnover, and he was +7 in his minutes, and so it was huge.
In his first full season as a starter, Boise State senior guard Max Rice has thrived in his new role. Oftentimes, he leads the Broncos in plus-minus, meaning when he's on the floor, the team is usually at its best. Through 15 games, Max already has finished in double figures 11 times. Coming into this season, he had 12 such performances in his entire career combined. Not bad for a guy that's gutting through a pretty significant injury at the moment.
I guess I can say it. It's not going to change the way teams try to go at him anyways. He's playing with a herniated disc.
Yeah, I thought we were keeping that one top secret, but I guess it's out there now. I herniated one of my lower discs in my back. Nothing that meds can't help me with, so I'll obviously play through it.
I mean, it's a living truth that he's playing and he's out there and he's fighting through it. And, you know, some days it's better than others. Travel sometimes affects things. But I know 2 programs where there's other kids that have the same thing he has, and they're not even playing. And it shows you how tough he is.
I think I've created a good system of like how many pills I need to take, and like I kind of got it down to a science almost. And I have a good threshold of pain that I can play through. So, I mean, I think I need to play just to help the team, obviously. I'll be good to go the rest of the season and then try to figure out what I'll do.
Tough kid. Big game, by the way, coming up on Saturday against Utah State. Hey, from one local prep star to another, former Rocky Mountain standout Jonah Dalmas announced today on Twitter that he is coming back in 2023 to play his senior season for the Boise State football team. Dalmas connected on 23 of 27 field goal attempts this season. He led the team with 117 total points scored. Dalmas has 54 career field goals, just 13 shy of the school record. Stick around. More in the news at 6 right after this.